Yeah, it's hard to choose. There's so many to choose from.
And Friday night, we ate with Karen and Dick Thurber at the Phillips Hotel downtown as restaurant
Yes,
week.
yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to go try El Centro. I heard that's good. El
El
Centro?
Centro down at 50th and Main or so. Yeah, that's a nice place.
I don't think we're going to have too many visitors tonight. I don't think we're going to have too many visitors
No, I
tonight.
don't think so.
I bet right now it would be shut down. They can make them up with another 2 or 3 or 4 weeks, but I mean, it's so dysfunctional, it's ridiculous. It's really, I mean, they're not dealing with any of those serious
So the county's still having a meeting tonight too?
Are they having one tonight?
Oh,
Yeah, but I did hear that, Louis at first wanted them at night, now he doesn't want them at night. Now Doug Smith wants them at night, or somehow, I don't know what's going on. They don't know what's going on.
King Louis got a straightened out.
King Louis.
King Louis the 14th, 15th. We'll call him Louis the 15th. Louis the 14th was last year.
Now that he's ahead of it. Get there.
Oh my gosh.
That's pretty good.
I think so too. Yeah, I'm surprised they voted for him. He's only going to be there 1 year. Not for me to say.
Because real life is crazier than anything else. So efficient, and that was in 1960. I couldn't even imagine what was today.
Yeah, can I?
Turn myself on.
It's a very, you don't trust, I mean, that's what that book that I gave you. You don't trust, I mean, you can't get much out. It's like some new shit.
Yeah. That's why we fight so hard about keeping local control.
Absolutely.
I don't want to say anything like guys trying to do things purely for the public good.
That's what Thomas Friedman said, basically, right now. His conclusions, right?
Everyone else is with BC and the other party.
Okay. Okay. Where are you?
Yeah.
Tab Central on your screen.
One's on our screen.
And I cut it down every once in a while.
I was like, man.
Okay. Okay. I'll give you a call after the meeting.
So I hear you're in the choir.
I sing at St. Joseph Church in Immaculate Conception sometimes.
Oh wow, that's good.
Okay, thank you.
You sing solo?
No.
Okay, I'll give you a call after the meeting.
I sing alto. I sing harmony
Okay.
mostly.
That's good.
Sometimes I
Okay,
sing
I'll give you a call
soprano,
after the
but
meeting. Thank you.
I can't get my voice up very high.
Are you gonna participate in Jazz by the River this year?
Always, yes.
You gonna sing?
Oh, no.
I'm going to sing. I'm going to sing. I think I'd get a lot of people out to hear me. They wouldn't come back the second time. Let's hear
Just
this
sing
one.
a solo.
A cappella too.
Yeah, they're having a meeting tonight. Richard Allen Cultural Center is having a meeting tonight, so I can't be there. I'm on the board, but they always set their meetings up on Tuesday. And guys,
I noticed
Yeah.
that billboard on K7 when I was driving back from that meeting.
They do?
Yeah.
that was from the grant.
Down in the Cultural Center.
That was from the grant, city grant. They looked at what would be the best.
I looked up there today as I was driving back from Providence.
It looks good.
Yeah.
So what would be the best use of that money coming from the city? And they decided to put a billboard up.
Everybody ready?
Yeah.
Ready? Good evening and welcome to the January 16th study session. I ask that everyone either turn off their cell phones or silence them. This is study session And obviously, we're live on TV, and we're also, we'll show every night this week at 7 p.m. and at midnight. And since this is the first study session for 2 new commissioners, just set it up a little bit. Study sessions are not required by statute. We normally have 2 per month. We don't take any action during study sessions. They are informational sessions for the staff, city manager and staff, to bring us information, and also for the public to see some information on things that we are considering. And obviously, we'll get input from the public on some of these topics. So, and we have them, as said, twice a month on the off on the off Tuesdays. So, having said that, let's start off with the Main Street 2017 annual review.
We have
Mr.
the
Kramer?
Main Street Director, Wendy Scheid.
Good evening on this
Wendy.
nice
Hello,
warm
Wendy.
evening outside. Thank you for the opportunity to let Main Street update you on what our program does and a snapshot of downtown. I really wasn't going to go through the PowerPoint. I can go through it quickly. I have a few slides to review. If there are some specific things as I go on through and you want me to stop, just let me know. We want you to know that we strive to maintain our organization as a professional partner. We provide strong economic development services to include working hand in hand with the investors, entrepreneurs, and small businesses. By providing available property contacts, funding opportunities, co-op advertising opportunities, and educational resources that small business needs, Main Street becomes a conduit for all-around success downtown. Through the 52 entrepreneur contacts that we made in 17, this provided 4 new businesses in downtown. Island Spice Jamaican Restaurant, Out of the Barn, Kansas Embroidery, and Carriage Work Laundry. We worked real hard with a smooth transition for Sherry Stitch's building business to Kansas Embroidery, and it wasn't vacant too long. So those are the type of things we do. We look at vacant buildings or buildings that might be demolished and have worked on those in the past. We transitioned buildings to new ownership as well. Carol Buckler was looking at retiring, and we worked with her on her loft buildings. We also worked with 2 owners on purchasing buildings on Delaware. So oftentimes, sometimes it's an out-of-town owner that's not a good thing. Sometimes it's an in-town owner that's just ready to retire. We consistently provide resources to existing small businesses downtown, and we do work heavily with Will Katz, the KU Small Business Development Center Director. He's a free generalist consultant. Anytime I meet with an entrepreneur or a business that wants some additional information, I set the 2 up. He sets his appointments, and they find it very helpful. And I encourage you, if you're looking for statistics, further economic development information, he would be available, I'm sure, to come to a work session. We know that growth and development happens because of everybody's economic development efforts. We had actually 15 new businesses. I forgot to mention, add First City Dental to that list. So there were 15 new businesses, 3 major business expansions. That is huge, plus the new hotel that's downtown. There were 5 businesses that transitioned into new ownership. There were 11 buildings that transitioned into new ownership, and we lost 8 businesses. Although from the 8 businesses, the Lofton, Kansas moved to 4th and Delaware under new ownership. Stitch by Stitch transitioned to Kansas Embroidery Company, and Courtney's Cuppa has transitioned into Pure Eats, P-Y-U-R, Eats. Cyclo Bar has transitioned into Gypsy's Bar and Grill, so there's really not as many that have been lost. Many facade improvements, new construction, and building rehab projects. Main Street hosts many events, on average 35 to 40, to bring people downtown, to get people to know that we actually have a full-service 28-block downtown, and to showcase the many businesses, oftentimes bringing them directly into those businesses' doors. It's not easy owning and operating a small business, yet it's rewarding and profitable when there's a business community that works together and strives for excellence. A business community that has a resourceful program that acts as the glue and holds it together, and we feel like that's the Main Street program. We continue on a consistent path to showcase downtown Leavenworth as a destination. We dedicate a significant portion of our budget to expanding our television advertising. This year we advertised in Omaha, Nebraska, North Kansas City, Fort Leavenworth, Overland Park, except for Olathe. And we produced 5 new 30-second videos. Those are all available on our website. Maybe some of you saw them on cable television or KCTV5, Channel 62, hopefully. Our Live After 5 is in its 3rd year. That's first Thursdays of every month. They're all themed, they're ticketed, and it's consistently gaining popularity. Through this event, we're able to dedicate our funds not only to advertising, but partnering with the community. In November, all our proceeds went to the Leavenworth High School pantry, where there's supplies that they purchase for the students when they're in need. In October, half of our proceeds went to the River City Community Players, because they provided the actors for the Whodunit, which was the theme. We keep track of our figures with Alive After 5 and know how many returning, how many new folks are attending, and sometimes it's pretty close, but we have a lot of new attending in that, so that's always good. We know that Main Street's the eyes and the ears of downtown community, and we appreciate meeting with the city and the different departments to maintain a safe, clean downtown in compliance with the codes, and in general a great place for our businesses to do business. We have many people that walk in and say, I don't want to look anywhere else, I want to be in downtown Leavenworth. So they're hearing good things, and for community and visitors who desire to visit, shop, dine, and engage downtown. We encourage you to view the Main Street program and its scope of work and services as a partnership with the city, further stretching your financial resources. Any questions on that before I go on to the PowerPoint?
I do have a question in terms of how many businesses are downtown? What
There's
approximate?
about 275 businesses downtown.
And how many are part of the Leavenworth Main
We
Street?
have about 130 Main Street investors.
Okay.
We're a membership organization, a nonprofit.
Right.
That's how it's structured through the National Trust.
And the dues or the fees that?
Business memberships are $250 a year, or they can do $22 a month or $62.50. We're pretty
Sure.
flexible.
Okay.
And what are the dues used for?
Well, they all recirculate downtown, so it runs the program. We have about $185,000 budget. So between the city funding, our investor dues, the fundraising that we do, that makes up our budget. And we have myself as a full-time staff and a 24-hour part-time staff. We're volunteer-driven as well.
Okay.
All developed through as the National Trust developed the program when urban renewal, you're probably too young for urban renewal, didn't seem to be working. So.
And you have a board too?
We have a board of directors,
How many people are on the board, Wendy?
12 plus ex officios.
And has there been any momentum at the state to bring the Main Street program back?
Well, we've been working on it, and we've had several, it's Kansas Main Street Incorporated, KMSI. And so we had a director for a while because we had a USDA grant. That's what this market assessment,
Yeah.
that's what paid for that, and you saw this in your packet. That director left, the funds were gone. We had a part-time director, and now the Kansas State Historic Society, we're working on a agreement with them. They would like to house Kansas Main Street in Topeka, and they've also had some successful talks with Phillips 66 Foundation, and so I'm sure this year I'll hear more about that and at the national conference, but we're hoping that Phillips 66 Foundation comes through with some multi-year funding, maybe 5-year funding, that can provide that director and then the resources that we used to get from Kansas Main Street, but it won't be a state organization. Later down the road, it could be a public-private, but they provided a lot of resources, trainings, but the Kansas State Historic Society is going to step up and bring in some training, and we'll be invited to that.
I'd like to see you don't have a budget in here, do you? A copy of your budget? Maybe you could send us
I
that.
can.
It's
I
not in
have
your
a copy
report.
if you want me to pass it around. I would send it.
You can send it to us, I'll
Okay.
look at it later.
All right.
Yeah, I want to look at it right now
We
while you're.
always provide one when we're doing the budget.
That's
talks.
true, that's
Yeah.
right. Okay,
And then-
never mind
We had
that.
it last August.
We
Never
kind
mind,
of go
never
through a
mind, I
couple
forgot.
variations, and the board just approved the final budget for 2018 last week at our board meeting.
Okay, I apologize.
That's okay.
But you can adjust your budget during the year if your revenues
We do.
increase or decrease. You can move on that. You're not locked in like
Yep.
we are.
We do that because sometimes fundraising opportunities are good, sometimes they're not as good as we expected. You know, we try and stay on track with the events that we do. You'll notice that the Irish Party will not be happening this year. We didn't have anyone step up to be the chairperson, and as we're volunteer driven, that's how it works. It was very labor intensive and budget intensive. But our first City Spring Tea was a huge hit last year. We're starting to work on that. We had 120 people attended. That particular event, any merchant, service, retail, restaurant can sponsor a table. It doesn't cost them anything. They do a beautiful display that represents their business. They can bring folks in and buy tickets, or we sell tickets to it, and so it's a great showcase. We had 22 tables sponsored this year in 17. In 18, we're looking for about 35 tables to be sponsored. We had lots of folks, mostly women. Some brought their daughters, a few men, dressed up in their finest tea attire and had a great time. Have a luncheon. So that was a lot of fun. Our Build a Bouquet, that's Mother's Day weekend, and that's been real popular. It's limited with 100 mason jars. They cost $5. A family can buy 5 jars if they want, 1 jar. We have many dads that come with a daughter or sons, and they travel around to the participating merchants, generally at least 20. They pick up a beautiful flower stem, usually a filler with it. They've got a gorgeous bouquet by the time they leave, and they've got the whole day to shop and have lunch and look around. They're assured to get their flowers. So that's been a real fun event and a good showcase for downtown.
How long have you done that? How many years? Is it just, did you do it?
This is probably going to be the 4th year.
Okay.
Yep. And our city market continues on. Our concert series has been well attended. We've just signed up the M80s for June. They're a huge
Oh, yeah.
draw,
They're good.
a fun band, and we've
Cool.
about ready to get the other 2 lined up. We have sponsors that sponsor the concert series. Main Street does the beverage concession, beer, soda, and water, as a fundraiser, and then we invite one of our Main Street restaurants in to do the food concession, and that's at a low cost for the people that are buying food. We will be into the 2nd year of the Hog Wild West Barbecue. We look to have it in the same location, which is the 200 block of Cherokee this year. We've turned in paperwork but haven't started on that. Our gala is always our major fundraising effort. We had 132 attendees in 17. Safe Trick or Treat brings tons of families downtown. And our holiday open house is similar to the Build a Bouquet. There are 200 maps available. Those that want to participate come to the Main Street office on a Saturday morning. Within an hour and a half, we generally have given the maps out. The maps are free. They go to 18 to 20 businesses and collect an ornament from each one. So they've got enough to do a small Christmas tree, wreath, whatever they want to do. Our annual banquet, I think many of you attended it. We had 187 at the Stowe Loft Ballroom, and we always keep that inexpensive, informative, and fun. Then one of the things we're really proud of this year, we've always done Small Business Saturday for many years. It's the American Express promotion. So we request merchandise. Sometimes there's banners, doormats, different things for the merchants. But this year, our promotions committee decided that we would infuse $1,000 into that promotion. And so for shoppers on that Saturday that spent $25 or more, they got one ticket. Let's see, I think there's our fishbowl, and it's a pretty big fishbowl. It was really full. So some people, Sadix had a lot of customers, and other ones that had more big ticket items. Some of those folks chose to fill out 8 or 10 tickets, some none, but for the most part, people filled out their tickets. We had 2,250 tickets, and Marley's husband did count those. That exceeds sales of $57,100 that day. We know it was much higher than that because this was from 33 participating merchants. It didn't cost the merchants anything to participate, they just had to sign up. So we, through that, we've developed, we'll have a Christmas in July similar promotion. But we know that it's really important to get those folks in the small businesses and get them shopping, and it showed. We encouraged many merchants to stay open on Thursdays in December, and nice to report several did. And these are some of our Main Street Buck winners. We gave 10 sets of 100 Main Street Bucks. Those recirculate in our downtown, and many came back. Our Facebook stats, we have a pretty good reach. We have a lot of post engagement. I think I noticed on my report that Main Street and the CVB had 3.4K during this time frame, a similar amount of engagement. We post a lot on Facebook. We peruse our Main Street investors Facebook pages, and if they've posted recently, we repost a lot of that. So it's just a great area to find out a lot about what's happening downtown.
Is that the primary means that you use to get the word out about all the activities and
Well,
events that
yes,
you?
although we do print advertising, we do the TV, we've done radio before. We do print advertising, like the Leavenworth Times is an in-kind sponsor of the concert series. Other times we pay for our advertising.
Do we
And
get,
it's sometimes on the digital portion too.
I know the folks on Post, families have the internet, but is there some organization on Post that we maybe coordinate with to get?
We work closely with the Spouses
Okay,
Club.
okay, good,
And we advertise in the Lamp at times.
okay.
If we have some committee people that work on Post, we try and
Sure.
slide a few posters in that way.
Okay, all right, that's good. Okay, good.
Let's see. I told you we're volunteer driven. At 12,380 volunteer hours in 2017. That equals nearly
Wow.
220,000 in value between all of the events we do, the committees, the boards, the partnerships. We have a $185,000 budget this year, and like Mark said, that will be adjusted up or down. I am sure you're aware of the Banner of Honor project. It's in its second year now. It's been very popular. Those are the veteran banners that are on Delaware Street, the 51. This year, we started it last year, and we gave applicants a chance to renew for 1 year at half the price, and we had about 50-50 did that. Then the banner, if they don't renew, comes back to the applicant. And so next year, we will probably be looking at maybe a little higher percentage of new banners. That's the limited area that we have for that. It's a picture of a few of them. And they don't have to be Leavenworth residents. We had a gentleman call me from New York the other day, wanted to know about our program, and they wanted to implement in their community. And I think they had been visiting, someone from Leavenworth had been there over Christmas or whatever. So it's a great program. Just general information about the program, where we advertise. So let's see what else I have here that I wanted to make sure I went over. About social media. Questions thus far?
How about buildings downtown, businesses that are unoccupied? How many, I mean, you have 275 businesses now, but there's some number of buildings downtown that are unoccupied currently?
Well,
I mean,
there
approximately.
are 27, well, from the available properties list, there are 27 vacant
Okay,
locations, storefront locations. I'm gonna hand out in a moment,
Okay.
you'll have an available properties list. Some of those listed on that are upper story business locations, or they could be backside, like Country Club Bank has a business location on the backside that's available. But there are 27. So in a 28 block downtown, we have, I guess you could average that out at 1 per block, although the 600 block of Cherokee has 3
okay.
empty buildings, 4 right now. And it's a popular block, it's crazy how it goes. But, that answer that question?
Are there any in violation of code?
I can't imagine that the 6th and Cherokee Club Venom building is in violation of a lot of codes.
Okay,
I don't think it's in violation of any visual codes, aesthetic for code inside. If someone opens up a business, there possibly may be some code issues on electrical and plumbing, but as for the building standing there right now, it's not out of code.
Even with the sign on it, it still says Club Venom?
Yeah, there's no current code violation.
Yeah, there's no code violation there. I would say there, if and I hope somebody comes in, because it's probably been vacant for close to 6 years now,
Oh,
I'm
longer
guessing,
than that.
however long.
Yep.
If somebody comes in and put in a business, whether it be a restaurant or whatever else, I suspect our building codes people will go in for the electrical and everything else. There'll be some issues, but as of right now.
so a leaking roof does not qualify as a code issue on a business like that?
The what?
A leaking roof, I mean, that could cause mold issues within a business like that. So I understand it has a leaking roof, so that's why I just bring that up, so.
From the folks that have looked at it, I've asked the agent to look at it, and she hasn't allowed me to do that. Now there's no signage on the building. I have the owner's phone number that I call him about every 2 weeks.
Okay.
But there's no utilities on in the inside. You have to take a flashlight in. The roof is leaking. There's a door on the back side of the roof that stays open. I don't know how you get up there, but anyway, that's certainly a property that is a valuable property downtown. It's got tremendous potential. It's got great parking. It's close to Haymarket, and you know, the price is pretty steep. It's a Lawrence owner, and we're not Lawrence Properties. But, you know, that said, maybe he paid higher for it at some point in time, I don't know. But those are we had a local purchaser for the building, but we weren't able to move forward because of the issues inside, and then he just wouldn't budge on the price, and that would have been a good opportunity, and they had the ability to renovate it and really utilize it well. But, you know, we'll keep trying.
That
Property is in the NRA,
yeah.
which is an automatic tax abatement tool. If you do get prospective clients like that, I mean, I would encourage you to send them to the city.
Okay.
To see, you know, a lot of times incentives are designed to close gaps.
Okay.
So while I don't think that it's really our place to tell a private business to lower the price, we can maybe certainly work on something that could help
Okay.
make that into a viable place in the future.
Right.
That property at 6th and Cherokee is probably the most prominent vacant property in town, and has been for 6, 8 years, however long it's been. In your opinion, is it all money-driven? The owner is wanting too much for rent or for the price, or are there other issues?
I think it's mostly that the price needs to come down with other incentives, and, you know, I mean, I think any renovation is gonna take dollars.
Oh, yeah.
And I have no idea how many dollars those would take, but I'm sure that any prospects take a look at what they think they're gonna have to at least put into a portion of it build that business or lease out
Their
another portion.
business property.
So mostly the price and the amount of renovation seem to
Did-
be the issues.
Do you know, does the owner just want to sell, or would he be interested in renting?
Long ago, it said purchase or rent,
Lease,
but
right.
it doesn't say that anymore.
No.
I don't think it's rentable right now. The utilities have been off for too long.
Yeah.
There's too many issues.
Would the city be able to go inside of and inspect it, or?
An unoccupied building like this, and I don't want to speak out of turn with our public works director here, we would have no compelling reason to on an unoccupied building, and we certainly couldn't enter without the property owner's approval, unless there was some sort of immediate public hazard. We've done that in very rare circumstances on Shawnee, the beautiful buildings that Darren Mann had redone.
Right.
Our city engineer determined that that was an imminent danger of
Collapse.
collapsing.
Yeah.
The front was falling off.
Yeah.
But as far as that, no, I don't know that you could find any rationale for forcing your way inside that building.
I'll invite someone if I'm able to go in.
Does the owner allow you in it?
No, he had an agent, Cherie was her name, and I asked her that. I told her we have an economic restructuring team, and they'd like to go in and take a look, and she wouldn't accommodate that. But she has accommodated a couple people, but her name, I have her name, but it's not on the building anymore.
Okay.
Yeah, there's substantial tools available. The E-Network grant that Taylor administers, the NRA in the downtown, facade grants, and other city grants. So it's not a $1 million building. So hopefully we can, if we did have a serious tenant, we can make it work.
Well, that's capable of housing, as it sits now, 3 separate businesses.
I would think at least 3,
Upstairs, downstairs, and
and that side
Off the
building on
alley.
6th Street. Mm-hmm. Yep.
I remember when that was a hardware store.
Really?
You are old.
Olive Hardware.
That's before my time.
So that they were the competitor to Gronis, or?
Yes, and we're at 5th and Cherokee, there's
Yeah.
another one, Rayburn.
You can't knock out
Interesting.
Gronis. You can't knock out.
I don't have a photo of that
And
building when it
Boland's
was a
was
hardware
there, too.
store. I'll have to
Boland's
look
was there,
around
too.
and
Do
find
what?
one. I don't have a photo when that building was a hardware store. So I'll have to look around.
Yeah, it was until early 60s, I think, and then Ferns bought it, and it was an appliance store.
I remember
Yeah,
Ferns had it.
Ferns, I remember.
So I would encourage the commission to think about, to research, to take a look at some of the existing cities that have abandoned building ordinances. I think I provided a few before. I'd be glad to, several in Kansas have that. They haven't had an issue with it, but it gives them the ability to probably go into that building once it's been abandoned for, I don't know, I haven't read the ordinances I've seen before, but it, I would think would be a wise thing.
I don't know if that's necessarily an abandoned building. And there's a definition, a legal definition of abandoned. I don't think that building is, I could be wrong, but I don't think it's an abandoned building. It's an unoccupied building, and there is a difference.
Okay.
You know, if somebody owns it, they're paying their taxes. You know, they do have their rights that we can't necessarily trample on. But I could be wrong. But there is a difference between an abandoned and an unoccupied building.
And I haven't checked the
They do
tax
a little
rules
work
to
on
see
it.
if the taxes are being paid. I know they can let them go in arrears and, you know,
After 3 years ago, the sheriff's steps.
pay
I
up for a
think.
year and let them go in
Yeah.
arrears again. So, anyway. Any other questions on that? Did you have any questions on the market snapshot, the document?
My only comment was I found it very interesting in terms of some of the things you just hear anecdotally, you know, that data in terms of the leakage and the surplus kind of backed up some of the things that we've heard about, like grocery stores, about we're doing a good job on food and beverage, I think, you know, in terms of eating establishments, things like that, restaurants. So I found it helpful just in terms of kind of solidifying some of the things I'd heard anecdotally. And that's not something that's going to be repeated though, right? I mean, it was...
Probably not. This
Right.
was provided by Kansas Main Street Incorporated through the USDA grant. It's possible that, because this is a basic market assessment, that they will come through if we are able to move forward with the Kansas State Historic Society and any other foundations. It's possible if we request these that they would do a more in-depth. I think, you know, and I'm not a real statistics person, but I noticed that there was low growth in population and households in the 5-minute, a little better in the 10 to 20 minute, but I think with all of our new lofts, possibly more lofts coming on board, if we could all work to try and bring some good paying, young professional type folks to the community, I think we would see all those 5, 10, and 20-minute increase, plus the median household income would increase. You know, we all would like our magic wand, but anyway, it's a tool we refer to, and as I'm talking to some folks, entrepreneurs, business owners, I've utilized that document. I just have, this is just basic information. Carla, there's one for you, and if you want to pass that around. This just shows that Main Street, we do you'll see 2 guides in there. One is a business guide, one is a shopping and dining guide. They look like this. We print them off in the office, we update them frequently, but on the back is our 2018 calendar of events. And so that's helpful. Merchants get these as often as they need them and help pass those out. I also provided, these are the businesses that are downtown. They're categorized. These are all the businesses that I know of, and I drive it frequently and walk frequently. So you can see that the Main Street businesses are highlighted in green. And like I said, they're categorized, so it helps to know maybe how many attorneys are downtown or how many medical offices that we have. This was the latest available properties list that I provided you. We try and keep that current on our website, but we've got to have a volunteer help us with that because it's not easy to, the way it is, it's not easy to take it on and off. But there are 26 vacant storefront / offices. Some of these available properties have tenants. It's just that the building owner would like to sell the business. Some are upper story, some are behind. And then tomorrow evening, I invite any of you, I know you have to be careful coming out. There's a member mingle at Kansas Embroidery Company. Ann and her husband Brent are former dentists. They retired early from having a dental practice, and she had done embroidery at home, and she's the one that stepped up to buy stitch by stitch custom embroidery, so it's a fun couple. We're hosting a historic tax credit workshop the following Wednesday. It's at Meriwether's in conjunction with, I invited the chamber to sponsor if they'd like to, in the Benmore studio. So they'll be coming down and presenting information on how the tax credits can ease the pain of renovation. As part of Grow Leavenworth County that you mentioned Taylor's part of, and I'm part of that, we're doing an entrepreneurial certificate program. This is taught by Wichita State Education and Entrepreneurial Professionals. It starts on February 22nd. Through our e-community, we pick up the majority of the cost. There's a $250 cost for businesses, but they get a great meal each meeting, and they go to 8 meetings and resources that are fantastic to help them not only start a business, but to grow and excel at their business. Many say they're just too busy to do anything like that, but it's really behooves them to take the time. And then last but not least is our e-news, and I don't know if you all have gotten this in December. I probably need to add you two to our list. I made a copy of it so you could kind of see what that looks like. And from that, we're always open to any suggestions on what things you would like to see us do, what you would like not for us to do.
Do you have any future plans to bring any new businesses that would attract more youth to the downtown area?
Well, we're always working on that. You know, I've talked to one building owner that's a good-sized vacant property that he talks about a extreme climbing wall and everything that goes along with that, and I've encouraged that. There's a couple others that we've talked about, youth programs, and I see there is a new youth program on Delaware in the 500 block. Ignite Youth, I think it's called. It's on the south side of the street, mid-block.
In the antique mall?
Well, I don't know if it's in conjunction with the church that's in the,
Oh,
on
yeah,
the south
yeah.
side. It might be, but it's a separate doorway.
Okay,
So it's either upstairs or it's behind.
okay.
Yep.
Quick question, Wendy, on the 600 Cherokee property we're talking about, you say purchase price is $214,900. Is that what it sold for originally, or is that
No,
what
I
it's,
think
that's the
it-
sales price?
That's
what
the
it's
price
for?
he's asking
Oh,
now.
that's the asking price, okay, I didn't know.
I'm hearing that he paid more than that,
Okay,
but I know that he had a $200 cash offer and wouldn't accept it a couple of years ago.
$200,000.
Yes.
No,
Oh,
I wouldn't accept
$200,000.
$200 offer.
Sorry about that.
I'll go up to $300.
Yes, yeah. So, you know, it may be a tax write-off, I don't know, but it would be
Even if it is
nice.
a tax write-off, that money comes out of your pocket.
It doesn't help
Yeah.
our downtown, that's
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah.
But we have been successful in a couple properties that weren't within the greatest ownership into new ownership, and they've really been spruced up, and, you know, so that's a good thing.
Is there any plans on the buildings there at 3rd and Delaware on the southwest corner?
Well, I understand that that's gonna be demoed. I saw a plan, a rendering of what he wanted to do. It was build a 3-story building. It was 2 floors of retail and office and 1 floor of lofts. But I have no idea, I haven't heard in the last few
I
months.
just noticed the windows are all
Yep, I
papered
noticed
up
that
now where
too.
they weren't before, but.
It's another building that has some pretty severe leaks, and it does have mold. Before they were covered up, you could go up to the window and you could smell it. But anyway, I don't know if he's waiting until the construction levels out down there. I'll follow up with him. And
Thank you.
When will the theater be completed? I know they've closed it as of last weekend. I know, and I see
He
people in
said
there
it would
working.
open in March. I thought
Is
he said it was
that what they're
March.
saying, Mark?
2.5,
Yeah.
3-month project.
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, okay, good.
They've taken over the space that Terry's Hair Loft had leased from them so that they can put another screen in. So she's moved
okay,
back
so-
Yeah,
upstairs above
It's gonna be
Lou's.
That's good.
five screens, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's a great positive development, obviously, for the city.
Yeah.
And
Definitely.
particularly, you know, when I would talk to young people, they would say that would be one of the things high on their list to keep them in Leavenworth.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
And at
Great.
one time, there was a developer talking about purchasing that property, and it wasn't going to be a theater, it was going to be more of a business center, and I reminded him that the first 30 feet really needed to be something retail compatible, and so it's I believe a good thing too, that B&B theaters have come in, and
I'm looking forward to it. We got tickets, so
For what, which movie?
it doesn't make any difference.
I'm always available. I'm sure my contact information is on many of these documents. Just give me a call. I'm generally there most of the time, but feel free to stop in and visit. Questions, email me, call me, stop in.
Mr. Mayor? I've
Yes.
got one more question.
Sure, go ahead.
One or two things or ways that the commission can help you with your preserving and revitalizing the downtown. If there were a couple things that you'd want to share with us, what would they be?
Well, I think help with the buildings, like we talked about, the 600 Cherokee building. I think we both work back and forth in sending folks. You know, keeping the downtown safe and clean certainly is helpful as we project the downtown as being a fun, lively place to be with lots of entertainment and shopping and dining. We want people to feel comfortable when they come here. be part of the way. Any other types of incentives are always, I provide all of these entrepreneurs that I talk to, 90% of them, I send all of the funding information from the City of Leavenworth grant to the Grow Leavenworth County loan application to the Main Street to anything else that's available. So they get all that, yep. And
Have you,
refer them to Taylor.
After a meeting a couple of weeks ago, have some of the situations with people intimidating customers, breaking laws in the downtown area, retailers had a positive response from the police. Have they started calling the police on those?
I believe they have. I've certainly encouraged them to do that. And I haven't heard too many things about, you know, what was discussed that day. But yes, I encourage them to make sure that they do call 911.
Yeah, okay, great, thank you.
Anytime they feel threatened or
Yeah,
someone's in their shop
yeah.
that's threatening them.
Right.
Anything else?
Thank you, Wendy.
All right. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. Appreciate it.
Okay, next item is review of the leaf collection program.
Mr. Mayor and Commission, I'll start on this, and we have our able-bodied public works staff here to help with all the details and the history of this program. 2018 marks the 10-year of running this program. Our 10th season would be this fall, but 10 years. So while the issue on the policy report is to review the 2017 leaf collection program, the goal tonight is to have a conversation about the leaf program in general. You know, it's been 10 years, probably time to look at it. Review and start a discussion. What do we want to do? What have you heard? I also want to get this out into the newspaper as they cover this and let the public know that we're talking about this. So if they'd like to share some input with staff, with the commission, or any of those, I know people have opinions. It's a very visible program, so it's time to look at it. This was brought forth by the fact that if we do continue, we're going to need some new equipment. So that's the dollars and cents of why this is in front of you today. But what we're really after is to just sort of get the elected leaders feeling about this program, and then we'll come back. We'll continue this discussion this spring. We wouldn't have to make any decisions till late summer or fall as far as buying something in the CIP program. So that's what we're here to do tonight, and then of course bring this back whenever you would like us to. I'll let Mike go over briefly sort of how we've evolved to the system we have today, and then just open it up to the commission.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, I have Curtis Marks with us here today. He's Operations Superintendent, has been involved in one manner, shape, or form with the LEAF program, I think, since its inception. The LEAF collection program, the city used to have one many years ago. However, when I started with the city back in 1988, the city did not have one, and it was a topic of conversation on and off with the commission for many years. Ultimately, when we started the program in 2008, was the kind of a 20-year absence of the leaf collection program. As the program was envisioned, discussed with the commission, we believe that we could go through the town on two separate passes through town in the fall after, say, the middle of November, before everything froze up in December, and vacuum up the leaves. And we purchased 2 leaf vacuums, basically, and said we're going to assign staff for this job. It's going to be sort of job 1 in that time period, and we went to work. In 2008, it actually went fairly well. It took a little longer than we thought it would, but we got through the city twice. And then 2009, it wasn't so good. We didn't get all the way through the city. And in 2010, I think, was the year we had the weather. It's either 9 or 10. I've lost track at this point, but all the leaves kind of froze down, and it was a real mess. And we had, at that point, some equipment failures. And we discussed this with the commission, that there was probably an unrealistic expectation that the city could do the entire, or the staff could do the entire city pickup twice. And we recommended that we alternate doing half of the city north of Spruce and half the city south of Spruce, alternate every year on that, and that's how we've been operating that since. It's been a fairly voluminous program. I had some slides here, but apparently I didn't teach the slideshow to run continuously. But you can see it doesn't take too many people and a few pickup trucks and a few leaf vacuums, and you've got a giant mountain of leaves down at the brush disposal site, which the city does compost, ultimately using them for our own purposes and often returning the compost to our customers at no cost. The averages for the last 4 years were about 1,250 tons of leaves. It's an estimate based on the number of loads, and 687 residents per year would come and drop off leaves. Some of those may be the same people more than once, but there was a fairly steady use of people. Equipment maintenance that has become an issue in the 2 previous years. Prior to this year, the equipment really started suffering from the fact that it was getting up in age, and it was not built as well as you would hope it would be. And ultimately, we spent $19,000 on each of the leaf machines, which cost about $30,000 a piece over the course of the years. And so we've got to do something, and I think you saw a CIP request came through for leaf machines, which perhaps is part of the reason we're here this evening. The new leaf machines of the size that the staff's recommending are about $60,000 or $65,000 a piece. They're 30-yard machines. The ones we currently have are 20. So it's a step up, and I think it's a more purpose-built, longer-lived type machine. We had a lot of staff changes going into this year and gave us the opportunity to evaluate how we did the work, what the processes were, and I think that was very successful with Curtis and his staff. We believe that we were efficient and effective in dealing with leaves, and we've got through the entire area twice between November the 6th and December the 5th. And you might remember that 1 week there was no leaves, and then the next week their leaves were 3 foot tall. So it was quite a year-changing operation to get through that. And we were able to, with the repairs in the previous years and pre-positioning known failure-prone parts, we were able to reduce our downtime considerably, and our repairs were only $6,000 combined on the equipment during the course of the LEAF program. Staff still recommends that we cannot, we do not believe that we cannot pick up, or we believe we cannot pick up the entire town twice with the current staff levels and the current equipment. I was pleased with what we did this year. I would hate to kind of enlarge the program based on one good year with the equipment and staff that we have to do the whole city. Maybe if we get another year of performance making the changes that we've made, we could do that. But we do say if the commission is interested in expanding the program, we seriously need to look at new equipment. And the new equipment, it will be bigger, it'll be faster, which means you probably ought to have another person or two in each crew to help with working the head around the cars, raking the leaves out, that sort of thing. So it is, I think that's kind of where we are. If we're going to look at expanding the program, we need to look at the staff recommendation, which is larger machinery. And if we're going to continue the program, maybe we ought to look at new equipment anyway. But it is, we're here because the commission asked us to take on a LEAF program. I can't remember, hard to believe it's 10 years, but we're here to answer questions that you might have, and Curtis has a different perspective perhaps than I do down in the trenches, but we pick up a lot of leaves.
Mike, do you want to talk briefly just about the inmate labor and how that dynamic's changed?
Certainly. In the past, we have been able to use inmate labor from primarily Kansas State Penitentiary inmates. And say 10 years ago, it was typical that the city would have for citywide assignment, 6, 8, 10 inmates, and they would work animal control or parks department or street department. In the last couple of years, as the facilities have changed their makeup, who's placed in what institution and what the type of crime that they have and how they can interact with the public on programs like this, we're down to 1 or 2 inmates, maybe 2 days, 3 days a week, maybe.
Right, 3 days at the most.
This is KSP.
Yes, sir. So it's an easy thought to say, well, we can augment with inmate labor. You probably can, but I would not rely on that as your primary source of additional labor for a program of this type.
I just have a question. Having gone through this as mayor last year and hearing all the complaints that we get, and I know your staff hears them. I'd like to get some input from you on that too, but just a quick question. Okay, you go through the town twice, or through half the town twice. Why not just go through the whole town once?
You don't know when the leaves are going to show up. And that's really, in my mind, the primary reason we had agreed back in the beginning to do it twice, because if you start at one end of your area, by the time you get to the end of it one time, all the leaves that were still on the trees at the front end have now fallen off. Mm-hmm. So it's just a timing thing. And I think if you said, we're just going to go through town one time, it would be probably unpleasant.
I remember, I think it was on the commission in 2011 when we changed it, or 2010, we changed it to, let's do Spruce to Metropolitan or Spruce to Eisenhower.
Yes.
And then on 1 year, if we do Spruce to Metropolitan, we start Spruce, go to Metropolitan, and come back. And then skip a year as it went south, and the following year, it'd go north, go Metropolitan, Spruce, and Spruce back. One question, if we do need this equipment, will this equipment make it through next fall? Or is it down and out now? Is it out of action now?
To answer your question, yes.
Yes, it will make it, but
It'll live. We'll do what we did this year.
but we have to, my issue always has been with the LEAF program, and I know Commissioner Dedeke has heard it, is it's almost impossible to manage to expectations. Because you don't make an appointment and say, hey, we'll be at your house at 9 o'clock on Tuesday, November 20th. You know, we start, I remember one time when we first started, we started like October 20th. And you can just go through with the broom and pick up the leaves because there's no leaves coming down.
Yeah.
And then we went to November 1st, and really there's not much there. You start at November 15th to December 15th. You get a 30-day window. We had perfect weather for leaf pickup in that 30-day window this year. But if we get snow or rain, those things, you can't, you know, they just become a mushy mess, and you can't pick them up. And let's say you're going Spruce to Metropolitan or pick whatever part of the city. And you go through on a Monday, and some people have their leaves out, and other people don't do it till next week. And you know, how come you didn't pick up my leaves? I mean, it's just so difficult to manage the expectations. Mm-hmm. I mean, it is a service that we provide, but it's not a service. I mean, you're happy if your timing's right on the leaf pickup, but if your timing's not right on the leaf pickup, you're not happy. And you expect, and then you will see leaves sitting out on someone's curb through the winter. And there's parts in town like that right now.
It is important to note that we have not restricted other leaf disposal options. You can put your leaves in a bag, you can take them to the brush site, and you can dispose of them for free anytime the brush site is open. It does not cost you to do that.
Or you can put them in your trash.
Put them out with your trash, with your regular trash, or in a bag all by themselves. They'll pick it up on your trash day and put it in the back of the trash truck.
And we've also allowed leaf pickup services that people do that hire themselves, that they can drop the leaves in at the brush dump at no charge if the leaves originated from Leavenworth, and we don't do a DNA test to see if anyone came from Lansing or anything. But I mean, there are companies out there, some of the lawn care companies that provide that service for a fee to their customers, and we allow them to dump those leaves out there.
Yes.
But we're into this thing for 10 years, and let's discuss, do we want to
I want
continue with
to hear
it?
what Curtis has to
Yeah.
say too. He's got to deal with it on a daily basis.
And you have pros and cons, and Mr. McDonald's exactly right. You, even if you have ideal conditions and you pick up, say, a portion of the town in perfect conditions, there's still gonna be the other portions gonna be unsatisfied because that time frame, that window that you're looking at, that you're dealing with, it's gonna be so small. You can have a wind gust that comes in 2 days, and all the people that raked all the leaves to the curb, they're now upset because you didn't get to them in a timely manner. So it gets into staffing, and it gets into where you're gonna take that. The back end of things, you gotta worry about, okay, we have a half-acre permit at the brush site through the state, Kansas Department of Health and Environment. If you do the whole town, you've now doubled the amount that you're taking in, so do you go to a full acre permit? And if so, what does that consist of? It's a little bit more lengthy, a little bit more detailed to do it, it's not impossible, but then you gotta make sure you have the land space to do it, and as we all know, the brush site is limited on space. So there's a lot of variables with this. Equipment-wise, some of the equipment is definitely outdated, what we have. It's hard to find parts, some of the things we have to manufacture our own just to keep, when I use the word limp, that's what we're literally doing, is limping through a season. We want to provide the service, we want to provide the service for everyone, but it's hard when you're having to makeshift some parts to keep things going the way you do to provide the service. So ideally, I think the best thing to do, again, kudos to Mr. McDonald and Mr. Hooper, they hit the nail on the head. You're going to need bigger equipment, or you're going to need more staff. Where KSP has dropped off with additional manpower, we need somebody to help supplement what we've already had, so we don't miss out on other services that we provide for the city. So there's a lot of different things to entertain or to deal with, to consider.
Well, and wasn't the reason for, I'm sorry, I'm
Go
just
ahead.
speaking out here. Wasn't the reason for doing this in the first place was to kind of keep the leaves out of the city's storm sewers, right? Is it doing that? Do you
Yep.
feel like it's doing that?
For the most part, I mean, it's not, again, a perfect solution, but it does help.
Okay.
It definitely helps.
I think, I could be wrong, but I think 10 years ago and before, people didn't think it was bad to run your grass clippings or your leaves down the sewers. It just washes down the river or
Right.
something now. But I think people are a little bit more educated on that now, that, you know, that is the proper way to.
Yeah, it's
think.
kind of frustrating because leaves are a natural part of the environment.
Yeah.
But if you fill your curbs and gutters full of the leaves and they go down and they're not scattered around the countryside, they're all piled in the
Right.
creek, and it can create problems
Yeah.
as well
Okay.
as some environmental.
So it does help, that's what you're saying?
It does help, yes.
How long does it usually take to do a part of the town?
Well,
Depends on how many leaves there
yeah,
are.
it depends on the perfect environment. If you get all the leaves, whatever, we can do a half a town efficiently in a 2-month period. You know, if there's no snow, if staff's able to get out and attack it when it first hits, and you don't have the weather, like I said, the weather plays a big part in it. So,
When we started this year with new people, the first week or two went really, really quickly, and they were all smiles, and then all the leaves fell off, and all the optimism disappeared, and they had to buckle down and really work hard.
And the residents have to get them to the curb too. We don't go up and rake them out of the yard for them.
absolutely.
We kind of reached about as far as you can with the rake from the curb.
Yeah.
And once the rain does hit, that adds another variable to the equation, because you've got wet leaves, and when you try to vacuum wet leaves, it's more damage on your equipment.
Yeah, it'd be just
So
jam
it's just, ideally, you'd like them to be fluffy leaves, everybody's got them out, we got manpower everywhere. You vacuum everything up. We don't live in that kind of world. So.
What do other cities do? Do we know, like, does Lansing or other cities in the metro area have these type
I've
of
not
leaf collection
heard.
programs?
It's been so long, I've forgotten, to tell you
I
the truth.
honestly have not heard where they do that. They have free disposal or drop-off. But as far as service like this, I've not heard of too many doing
Yeah,
this.
I'll just reinforce what Commissioner Bowder said in terms of really focusing on what the primary purpose and intent of the program was, and whether, you know, back 10 years ago, whether that's still the primary purpose and intent of the program now, and what's the value added of having. I mean, I could make a case that, I don't think it's a good case, but that everyone should just be responsible for raking their leaves and putting them in the, you know, the black bags. I mean, that's a possible option, but I'm not saying I think that's great, but it looks like we're taking a multifaceted approach to this
Well, on the
problem.
back side of it too, you go back to the brush site, residents do have access to compost, good compost.
That's
And
one of
a
the,
lot of people
that's
do.
one of the benefits of the program.
Yes.
Yes, okay.
After a year or two, they can go to the brush site at any time and
Yeah.
get all the compost they want, as long as they're city residents.
But the original purpose when it was set up, because I remember at the meeting, I wasn't on the commission then, and I think Commissioner Bauer, that says, and maybe you were on the commission then, and it was kind of an added service to the community. I don't think it was even talked about to get them out of the gutters at that time, and that was an unintended consequence, not an a positive consequence, but as a service to the community. And of course, you know, one neighbor, one property owner can take them right to the curb, while those on either side don't. And they can just let them rot in their yard or dispose of them however they want. So it's not a requirement, but it is something that the city offers to residents if they care to take advantage of it. But the coordination of it is a difficult thing. I know you're going to say something, Commissioner
Yeah,
Dedeky.
I am.
I know you are.
Well, from the comments that I've gotten from our residents, everybody likes the system. And they finally got in tune to the half city, half city. We did, what, for 5 years? Did
Right.
the entire city?
Right.
Before we split. On the manpower, have you considered seasonal or part-time people that, I mean, we could do that. The county also has work release. You don't have to rely on KSP. You can go talk to the county and see if you can get some of those for your manpower. And as far as equipment goes, did you price to 20 yards? Or you just 30?
Just the 30.
I suggested price to 22, so, because that's from 60 plus to each 64.5 compared to 59 for two. Of course, it's got 10 years of valuation going
What was
there.
your question? 30 yard versus 20 yards?
No, I know what the versus is. I just want the prices on it,
Oh,
on the 20 yard.
Oh, it was 20 yard. You're
Yeah.
doing 20 yard capacity or 30 yard capacity.
Well,
and
we've got
yours
it,
is
we've
on-
got it on the 30.
Okay.
And we currently have 20, and I want to
Okay.
see what new 20s are worth.
How, if you're just running down the street, sucking up leaves, how long does it take to fill up 20 yards? Because it compacts it a little bit.
If everything's going smooth, probably about 2 hours,
And then you have an hour downtime while you unload it.
approximately.
Yeah.
So it might be faster to have a larger one,
More bang for your buck.
yeah. And then, so which means
More
Yeah.
bucks. is
fewer,
the problem.
fewer days and fewer,
That's what I'm looking at.
fewer days and fewer employees for those days as well, though. I mean, if you're,
The
you have
30 yard one
fewer
will run
days
for
and,
3 hours, the 20 yard one, it's 10
And
yards an
it's
hour.
gonna take an
probably.
hour and a half to unload, because it's got a third
Right.
more
Yeah.
leaves in
Yeah,
it, so
yeah,
where's
yeah.
it at?
Yeah, you may be right, I don't know.
I think-
We just blow
yeah,
them
I
out, or-
think that'd be a comparison, yeah, you can see how
Yeah,
many,
they're-
if
Yeah,
what you'd
there's a
be
lot of-
saving in employee time.
Yeah, there's a
It's
lot
gonna
of
be
variables.
expensive, too.
Our expectations are you would pick them up more quickly, and you would make more progress through the grids. Hopefully, it doesn't take much longer to unload them, other than tip the thing up and knock it
It's
out.
just a tip, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's just a
Yeah.
tip, so it
Tip
doesn't
and
take any
pull
longer.
off.
Right out.
Yeah, it doesn't take any longer. It's
So
not a-
there's some efficiency to be gained, but certainly we can investigate.
Well, I'd like to at least compare the prices on the
Absolutely.
two.
I'd agree.
We could look into some staffing options. I know parks specifically, the temp labor market has been awful. We've increased our pay multiple times, and this is in the summer where you're thinking you can get college kids and high school kids and stuff like that, and this is just mowing and weed eating and stuff like that. So we've really had a tough time getting any kind of reliable help, but you know, if the pay's right and
Well, I
that
mean,
kind
you
of
could
stuff.
advertise it as a 30-day part-time job.
Yeah.
People want extra Christmas money, they could work it as a second job. There's all kinds of options that you
There
can
are.
use.
Yep, for sure, there are.
That's all I've got.
Commissioner Wilson, anything?
No, sir.
Commissioner Griswold, anything else?
Just, I think, this, to go back and look at some options, because I think that it may be a multifaceted intent or purpose for the program, which is fine, but I do think maybe coming with some options in terms of, you know, one option being the whole city, one option being half the city each year, and I mean, I just think that that would be where we would need to go, just to kind of evaluate what would make sense, because depending on the options, it's gonna cost, some of the options are gonna cost more money than other options, so that's where I would like the staff to go at this
I'm
point.
getting a general feeling to look toward moving forward. So look toward more options on 20 versus 30 versus different
Yeah, I
types of
think
machines,
so.
more options on labor, what kind of workforce development partnership, if they have 30-day or temporary, any kind of labor options.
Right.
But when we bring it back with the idea of trying to move forward and seeing how the best way
Right.
to
Yeah,
go
I-
forward.
I
I
think
don't
there-
think
I
we
think
want
everybody
to,
wants.
yeah, I don't
wants
think we
do
want
it
to
for-
scrap it because people
Yeah.
do like it a
Yeah.
lot.
And
They're frustrated by it, but they like it.
I know when I'm beat. I know when I'm beat. You know, I'm not. But to your point about Commissioner Griswold about the whole city, I like doing half the city because then you get 2 passes. You do the whole city, you start at Metropolitan,
Well,
go to Eisenhower, and if you're
And that would be,
November
that's
15th.
If you miss-
that'd be certainly be a disadvantage. All
Yeah.
I'm saying is
Yeah.
that, you know, there are disadvantages
Yeah.
to doing the
Yeah.
whole city, but I'm just looking, kind of rack and stacking
Yeah.
the options.
So I will say, we are creatures of habit, so the town is getting used to that
Yeah.
process,
Right.
so.
Yeah,
I fully agree with you, totally. And I wouldn't worry too much on the permit side of things either, because we being the brush side, ultimately gets all the leaves anyway. The residents find a way to get the leaves to the brush side, whether they have to bring them or they hire a contractor.
they-
So the
they-
leaves are still coming there, so regardless if you're bringing it with the back or you're bringing it with private contractors.
One other question, what media are you using to let the people know, the new residents know that leaf pickup begins now and it ends there, we're making 2 passes, we're making 1 pass, so that they know?
We work with Melissa.
Melissa,
She does
Yeah.
a multi-pronged PIO campaign to let people know.
And I know it's on Channel 2 from time to
Yeah, I
time.
think we've finally passed the hurdle of people not knowing.
yeah, I think,
Yeah.
I think she
But
did a
I
good
still-
job at
Still
that.
think, again, new residents, turnover, look at,
And a
something
reminder
as much as
doesn't
door
hurt,
hangers, so that, because that seems to be the biggest complaint is you get everybody and then that person just got them out and you're not back for 3 or 4 weeks and then they're all these are all blown away.
Yeah, a lot of times neighbors will tell them, just a new person moves in, I mean, the neighbor kind of tells you, hey, Thursday's your trash day. Just a little bit of, people don't live completely in a vacuum. But anything that we can do to help do that.
As long as the collection is structured where they know when you're coming back, they can be ready for the next round if they have an initiative.
Yeah.
Because you don't want them out there too long, right, because of weather and like rain and stuff taking them into the sewers, which is one of the things we were trying to avoid, so.
Factors into it, but yeah, we make it back in time. We've been doing fairly well this year.
Now, you don't want them raked into the street, correct? You want them raked up to the curb
To the
in their
curb, to the
lawn?
easement,
Yeah,
not
yeah.
in the road, but
Right.
in the easement.
Yeah, and that's, we'll still pick them up if they rake them into the street.
Well, I mean, that's where the majority of that I see are raked.
Well, sometimes you
They want them out of the yard.
sometimes you can't do that, like I have ditch right in front of my
Yeah,
yard.
but
If it
that's-
goes in the ditch, it goes down in the sewer,
Yeah.
so I had,
Right.
there's different
blow
things
mine
I have
in
to
the
rake
woods.
it into.
Any other questions?
No, sir.
Thank you,
Thank you.
gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thanks.
We'll be hearing back from you,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, we have some
Mr.
direction.
Kramer will do
Bring
it.
you back some information.
Next item is review again of the Stormwater Program annual fee.
Mr. Mayor and Commission, again, I'll take the lead on this and then turn over to our able-bodied staff. So the City Commission held a series of study sessions starting in mid-2017, starting with showing the current state of our stormwater system. The stormwater utility or stormwater fee has been brought to the Commission many times over the last 20 years, twice that I know of for sure, and it's been discontinued. The discussion was discontinued. So we started this in 2017 by sort of defining the project. We looked at other cities and the methodology of collection, and then in that discussion, the City Commission leaned heavily toward a more simplistic fee as opposed to something like Lawrence, who looks at every single property on GIS and determines impermeable surface. As we moved forward, we held some public meetings. The last substantive action the Commission took was on November 21st, when there was a consensus to place the stormwater fee on a county tax statement as opposed to as an item on your monthly utility water bill. At the December 5th meeting, we decided at best at that point to table it, considering we had some new commissioners starting, and this is a really big issue. We also had some public input at that meeting from a business owner. So we've taken that public input, we've incorporated that into a few more tiers in the different categories of industrial and commercial to sort of further differentiate between small industrial users and large industrial users in the program. One important point I'd like to make about this is the stormwater system is just that. It's a system. This is in your parks, it's under your streets, it's in public spaces. So when we talk about an individual property's contribution to the stormwater system, if that individual property's owner is a citizen of Leavenworth who drives on the streets and goes to the parks, that's paying for the needed upgrades of this system. So we try to make it as equitable as possible, and you can go either way. If you go more complex, there are some large sites that contain all their water on site. So you start, every door you go into, there's more variables on those individual users. So what we wanted to talk about tonight is kind of where we are, and then is this commission looking to continue forward on the same path as we were before the new year, or if we need to relook at some aspects, whether it's methodology, whether it's collection method, whether it's program development. One thing I also wanted to bring up is we have to do a charter ordinance that does not set any kind of fee level, any kind of classification level. All it does is give the commission the vehicle to be able to impose this fee. And then we would bring back an ordinance following the charter ordinance that would set these fees and these levels and all this stuff. So the charter ordinance essentially is just the shell that allows you at some point to do this. So when we see a charter ordinance, don't think that that sets anything. We're also not looking to set any levels or any classifications tonight. We're looking to get input from the newly seated commission and existing commissioners about what you would like to see going forward.
Well, I think one hurdle we've passed, we have established that this needs to be done. We have answered that question. One of the other questions we have to answer, do we want to do it on a 20-year, 30-year, 40-year? And obviously there's benefits and disadvantages to all of those. And then the fee structuring. But the first thing is, Mr. Kramer said, is we'll probably have to move forward with the charter ordinance. As we get that charter ordinance, if we put it on an agenda item, first hearing for next, if we would, for next week, I mean, we're looking at what, 60 days before we can?
Yeah, it would be first consideration and then second consideration 2 weeks later, and then you have a 60-day waiting period in case there was any kind of a protest.
So realistically, if we'd move on this next week, just to get the charter ordinance in place without any, you know, how much we're going to charge that we're going to do this, we're looking at the 1st of May, realistically, before that ordinance goes into effect.
Right, and it doesn't expire and it doesn't obligate you to anything. So
Right.
it can sit there for 3 years, 5 years, 10 years on the books. It's just the vehicle that's the paperwork that we need to put in place.
But I think the previous commission had established that this is something we have to go forward with. And Commissioner Griswold and Commissioner Wilson, I'd like to hear your input. The thought is, let's move on a charter ordinance to take care of the details separately. But I don't know where you, Commissioner Wilson, or Commissioner Griswold, where you might be. Any thoughts?
Well, I agree, it definitely needs to get done, but would the other city commissioners be in favor of actually having another public meeting? Because I know there's a lot of people that's still unaware of it, just to talk about the prices that citizens would be charged.
I would be if we could get them there. Our last two that we've had, but we had 13 people,
Yes, sir.
both meetings.
But I think we will have, the charter ordinance doesn't, once again, we won't be discussing
Yes, sir.
pricing.
Yeah.
Besides, we know it's an $85 million nut we have to hit approximately. But when we get into the discussion on payments, I think our charges, whatever the fees are, I think we'll get some people
Yeah,
that
you'll
come
have them down here at the
they'll
meeting.
start coming to those meetings. Yeah, that will be very, very open. But I agree with Commissioner Dedeke. We had him at the fire department, had him at the community center. Community center, we may have had 10 10 people, and I think at the fire department, we just had one property owner, just the Browns, and besides all of us. But it does, but when you start, that was just explaining the program, and here are some options. But when we start talking about pricing, I think we will get much more input, but that's not where we are right now.
Okay, yeah, that's my only thing.
I'm in favor of going forward with the charter ordinance as an expression of the intent and what the commission wants to do, and I think the sooner we do that, the better, in terms of that one specific issue, so.
Commissioner Dedeky?
Yeah, I agree.
Great.
Mr. Kramer, Ms. Williamson, can we move as quickly as putting the first reading next week?
Yeah, I believe so. We have reviewed it and the wording we're going to put into it, so we just need to finalize that, and we can have that for next week's meeting.
So, if this thing flows properly, first reading would be January 23rd, second reading would be February 13th. I mean, the second consideration would be February 13th. That's the next meeting. And once again, all that does is, and then there's a 60-day, not protest period, what's it called?
It is a protest.
60-day protest period before it goes into effect. So we're talking, mid-April, the 1st of May, something like that. And that's without even discussing how the funds that we need to pay for it. Okay.
Mr. Mayor, the only other thing I would say is that I think we should use that opportunity over the next 2 months to look at strategic communications, not getting down in the weeds, but just talking. I mean, this isn't an option. This is what we have to do for the future residents of Leavenworth. So I know that's probably pretty obvious, but I would just say that.
Yeah, and we have done that, and we need to continue to do that because it's not an option point. Of course, we're hear from people, why didn't they do this 50 years ago? Well, we're not into who shot John. The fact remains, we've got this problem and we've got to correct it. So, any other questions, options?
I've got just a couple of questions. It's going back into the rates. Are we giving an allowance to any of the business that has water retention ponds?
Not on this plan. These were,
Why not? Wouldn't it seem, when part of our building code is to have that water retention, such as Dillon's or Zach, or the hotel. And they're doing more than their part by recouping some of that water, but we're gonna turn around and charge them the full hit? That doesn't make sense.
As preliminary work, when we looked into doing this, we kind of sampled some of the businesses to see what impervious surface quantities they had versus just doing building size. And looking at the rates that cities have on an impervious surface structure versus kind of what we were looking at here, the amount that a larger business that typically has on-site detention would pay under the impervious surface system would be considerably higher than what we proposed in the spreadsheet here, or we're looking at the spreadsheet.
But Mike,
And those, under the impervious surface system, they did have credits to where you would set up a basis for giving them a credit for their on-site detention. So we tried to make what we're looking at the simpler system to allow for a lower fee to where it would still be lower than what an impervious surface system would be with credits against it.
I don't think the impervious system would fly. It didn't fly last time.
No, and that's why we tried to keep the rates lower.
Right, and I agree just for the buildings to do that, but that building is still pushing off water.
It is.
Any of these hotels or Dillon's pushes a lot of water. It all goes into their receptor. Fairview Inn, I think Zach has had to put one in. So that sort of bothers me on it. The other thing that bothers me on it is that none of these fees are tax deductible because they're a fee, they're not a tax.
Correct.
So how many people, even though they've got a big building, has a business that can throw away $6,200 a year? You got 3 of them there, you've got 3 of them at $5,200. If I owned one of those buildings, or if I was looking to move into Leavenworth and buy a building in our new park, and I seen these fees, I'd turn around and leave.
I
I
would
think that's
offer
what you're
that-
gonna run into.
But on the flip side of that, if you make it a tax, we have a lot of properties that are tax exempt that they
Right.
can't pay the tax.
I understand that.
And so that
I don't think we can make it a
5,200
tax
goes
anyway.
to 6,500, so the 20% you're gonna get off, it's.
Yeah,
gonna be a-
when we talked about the taxing option, you could do it as a millage increase. That's how you do a tax. You simply would not get the churches, get the schools, get the universities.
Right.
You could try to negotiate a payment in lieu of taxes, but this scope was a means to try to sweep everybody in.
I understand that.
But you could certainly do a dedicated property tax. You know, you can call it whatever you want. If it's a stormwater tax or a property tax, it's gonna hit somebody the same way. And you could certainly do that, and then try to work with the non-taxed entities. There's a lot of them.
Yeah, there is,
Yeah.
there is. There's-
And I,
We need to do a
well,
lot of talking about
I
it.
don't know that obviously we're not here to decide on the payment, how we're gonna pay for it or the charges, but those are good points Commissioner Dedeke brings up. And there's flip sides to both of them. If it is a fee, and the attorney, I mean, that is non-tax deductible for businesses.
I don't know.
I think for businesses, it is tax deductible, because any type of fee, it comes off your bottom line. I know.
Business expense.
It's a business expense, that is. On a residence, I don't know how it's rolled up.
Definitely wouldn't be on it.
Yeah, but on business it is, because it's a business
It's a
expense.
possibility.
Yeah, but, so they'll be able to deduct that. But if we make it a tax versus a fee, we'd lose a lot of entities unless they volunteer to pay, and I don't think many people volunteer to pay. We could ask them, and maybe out of the goodness of their heart they would. But, so, if we had to charge somebody, let's say $5,000 for the amount that we'd lose by doing it as tax, we'd probably have to raise theirs to $6,000, I'm guessing. I'm just grabbing numbers here, but once again, we're not here to discuss all the dollars and cents.
No, but it's good to discuss it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, we're gonna have to,
We're
we're
going.
gonna have to discuss,
eventually.
Yes.
and we'll be discussing it quite a bit as we establish it. First of all, we're going with the charter ordinance, I think we're moving forward on that, but there'll be a lot of discussion on the fees and how we charge it. Any other questions, Commissioner Dedeke?
No, that's all I got for right now.
Okay,
There'll be more to come.
yeah,
Okay, one,
yes, sir.
just, and I think there's gonna be a program or project manager, we're thinking that would be brought on in 2019 or something like that.
Yes, having the program is.
My only thing
initiated.
is this is really good analysis, but, you know, we're down in the weeds, and I always like to start these things from a mental standpoint, from kind of the big picture. And so I know that's probably anything that can be done along those lines in terms of the major things that have to be done, maybe even in the first 5 years, various costs, and then the schedule, 20, 30, or 40 years. So I could visualize it a little better than looking at this good work. It's very specific, but I'm just telling you as one commissioner, that's kind of how I approach a big project like this. And if anything could be done along those lines, I think it would help also with our strategic communications with the citizens.
We also discussed phasing it, and I remember we did talk about that, but I haven't
Right.
heard any more about it than that.
Well, we haven't made
Since
any
then.
determination.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, I haven't heard any more about
Yeah,
those
those
sorts
are
of
things I
options.
think that we'll definitely be talking about it some more. But I think we're in agreement that we want to move forward on it. We are moving forward on the charter ordinance. Okay, nothing else on the agenda? Any comments, Commissioner Bowder, on anything?
No, sir. I'm
Commissioner
fine.
Dedeke?
Nothing to what we're talking about this evening, but I understand that the MMA event was very successful.
Yeah.
I checked with the chief today, we had no calls for service.
Yeah.
Good, very good.
And I heard 800 or 1,000 people were there.
850
Yeah,
roughly.
and they're, just for anyone that happens to be listening, the city did not have anything, had nothing to do with the accounting of the event. They met with us to get the approval to use the community center. We have something in our ordinances on boxing matches, wrestling matches, et cetera,
Right.
that they must come to the city. The organizer of the event said well, they said it to us, said to anybody, I plan to give a donation to the Veterans Organization or a charity. That is his business. City has something to do with that accounting, how he runs his business. Okay, he paid his fees and did it according to our rules. Whether they charged $1 a ticket or $1,000 a ticket, you know, that was basically his business. And I'm sure sales tax was collected from that. But other than that, how he handles his business is his business, not our business.
That's good.
Well, I disagree partly with that, what you just said. Mayor.
What's that?
The way he handles his business. We granted that, I think, basically because he said he was going to donate it all to the suicide prevention for the military.
Well, I don't think he said he donated it all. I think we granted it because.
Well, that's the reason I voted for it.
But we have, according to our ordinances, a wrestling match, wrestling and boxing
understand
matches,
that.
they have to come for approval.
Right.
And if they have to meet the following
I
qualifications.
know we don't have any legal.
We couldn't deny it. Well, yeah, I mean, once he,
Understand
once
that.
they meet it, they can meet it.
Well,
But-
we could have denied it. That wasn't open where we was forced to pass that. We could have denied that
I don't know that we
because
could.
we didn't have the definition for MMA in there. And that's totally
Yeah,
different from
right.
boxing or wrestling.
Yeah,
It's a
possibly
30
so.
event.
Yeah.
And that's why I said, he come on and says, I thought he said he's gonna donate all of it. I'm not sure what he said.
No, he didn't say that.
But, at least that or substantial.
Yeah, I think he said he's gonna donate to the veterans, and I
But
did
that's-
not hear him say all of it.
That's the only
I
reason
would question him
voted
as a
for it.
businessman if he's gonna donate it all. He's gotta put food on the table somehow, but I don't know that we're not in a position to say, give us an accounting
No,
of your
I
property.
understand that.
And if we have another event, we can just discuss that among the commission.
Okay. My understanding is he's going to apply for another one. so
Okay. We will be seeing
We'll
him
find
again
that
then.
out then.
Okay. Commissioner Wilson?
Well, I actually attended the event. It was very well organized, great sportsmanship, and there was a lot of support from the community as
Were you a
well.
participant?
Nah,
I think you would have done it a little better than some of the players. And
it was
I was there too, so we were texting back and forth in terms of some of the unique aspects of that particular event, right?
but it was
You know what I'm saying?
it was a huge success. And
Yeah,
like
no,
I said,
everybody,
just
you know,
it was
people get
great.
into
It was great. It was different. Definitely
Yeah.
great for the community as well. A lot of support.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would just, on some, of the- I think the overall quality of fighters, some of them weren't in as good a shape as I would have liked them to be in, but I think he'll do an after-action review and figure that out
Yeah.
next time he runs it.
But there's some local talent there, and
Oh, yeah.
that's what
Hey,
people
listen,
wanted
it
to
was-
see.
it was-
Yeah.
I stayed there, right?
Yeah.
You stayed for the actual last, which was the best bout of the night, I understand, but I didn't stay for that one. I went 3 rounds. A lot of them were over like 20 or 40 or 50 seconds, right?
Yeah.
But it was good.
Yeah.
Leavenworth's coming up.
Commissioner Griswold, do you have anything?
I have one other thing. One of the themes in during the campaign last summer and in the fall was working with commissioners, the city manager, citizens overall, other stakeholders within the city on a vision, a unifying, achievable, and forward-thinking vision. And I would like the opportunity at a future work session to present a 15 or 20-minute presentation in terms of how I would like the commission to move forward on that topic. So if that's my proposal, if we could, I could come and address it and make a presentation, answer your questions, 15 or 20 minutes, and go from there.
Okay.
I have no problem with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm supportive.
Okay. Mr. Kramer, can put that on maybe for February 20th, depending on what the schedule is?
Yeah, I'll look at it and I'll let you know.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll work it out.
That's fine.
Yep. sounds
Okay.
good.
Thank you.
Anything else, Mr. Kramer?
I don't.
Ms. Williams? Okay. If not, we are adjourned. Good night.